Gunfire echoed off the canyon walls like distant thunder, each shot splintering through the night, shattering peace as swiftly as trust. Smoke rose thick, mingling with the scent of burning wood and betrayal. A lone, battered farmhouse stood silhouetted against flames licking the horizon, its windows shattered eyes witnessing horrors untold. In the midst of chaos, a woman knelt, her fists clenched in the dust eyes, sharp with the kind of pain that doesn't heal, only hardens. Around her lay memories, shattered by bullets, promises broken by greed. The world she'd known quiet and forgotten was now ablaze, stripped bare to its violent core. Tonight vengeance whispered louder than grief, and she listened closely. In that moment, beneath a sky alight with embers, a line was drawn not in sand or dirt, but deep in blood and ash. She knew as the flames danced higher, nothing would remain untouched. The reckoning was here. Lily Mae Carson's ranch was on a slight rise overlooking the barest suggestion of a creek. The fields had long turned to scrub, and the once mighty barn was now a lopsided skeleton. But inside the small, tidy cabin, Lily Mae preserved a bit of dignity that the harsh frontier had failed to steal from her. She was in her early 50s, face lined not just by the sun and wind, but by experiences far heavier than everyday chores. Her graying hair tied tightly in a bun revealed the no-nonsense angles of a face that had seen pain and inflicted healing more times than she cared to count. In another life, Lily Mae had been a battlefield surgeon during the Civil War. No more than a nurse at first, but necessity and desperation on the front lines had dragged her beyond that role. She'd become adept at amputations and triage, turning her from a docile caretaker into a hardened, decisive force who saved many lives and lost too many others. She had served alongside her husband, Major Thomas Carson, until the day a bullet cut him down during a desperate night battle. She had tried to save him on her operating table, trembling as the lantern flame flickered in a damp makeshift field tent. Her last words to him were drowned out by artillery thunder. He was gone, and since then she had never quite banished the memory of the smell of blood and gunpowder from her senses. After the war, with little left, she had come to High Plain, buying a small homestead with the measly army pension. The place offered a quiet corner of the world where perhaps nightmares wouldn't chase her. She set up her ranch, lived simply, and occasionally lent her medical skills to the nearest townsfolk who came out begging for help. But the arrangement suited her. She needed solitude more than she needed companionship. This morning was typical. The sun was barely above the horizon when she headed out to fetch water from her well. She had her chores, feeding her aging horse, patch-checking the small chicken coop for any eggs, tidying up the stable. Quiet, methodical tasks that kept her hands busy and her mind from wandering too often to the past. But as she lowered the bucket that day, she felt a prickle at the back of her neck, some intuition telling her to be cautious. She pulled up the bucket, sniffed the water. It was faint, but there was an odor that set her nerves on edge. Lily Mae had smelled all manner of chemical stench in the war chloroform, rotting flesh, rancid infection. But this was something different. It made her recoil. Her horse Patch ambled closer and dipped his muzzle to the bucket, only to jerk back, ears pinned. He whinnied in obvious distress. Lily Mae's heart quickened. This wasn't a natural contamination. The well had been her livelihood for years and had never tasted foul. She set the bucket aside, squatted down, and scooped a handful to her nose. The odor was pungent, reminiscent of sulfur or some toxic solution. Anger flared in her chest. Someone had done this intentionally. The Carson homestead was not prime land, not by a long shot. But it did have one advantage: its well tapped into a fairly reliable water table. In dry spells, other homesteads around High Plain would go empty, but Lily Mae's well always retained a trickle. Perhaps that had made her the target of envy, or something more sinister. She spent the rest of the morning trying to confirm her suspicion. She carefully collected a small sample of the water in a glass jar. She smelled it again. A whiff told her it was definitely tainted with something. Setting it aside, she took a small measuring spoon from her kitchen and dabbed the water onto a clean strip of cloth. Within minutes, the cloth grew discolored, an unhealthy greenish tint. It had to be sabotage. And Lily Mae, though she didn't like confrontation, felt fury simmer inside her. When she had come to High Plains, she'd hoped to leave the unpredictability and cruelty of war behind her. Apparently, trouble had found her again. She pushed her front door open and stepped into the scorching mid-morning sun, scanning her property. Cacti, dry grass, bits of tumbleweed. The modest boundary fence needed repairs. Had anyone snuck in the night, evidence of footprints? She found faint boot prints near the well half-scuffed. They weren't hers. She never wore that style of narrow-heeled footwear, not big enough to be a man's print. But that might be misleading. Some smaller men or teenage boys had similarly sized feet. Lily May decided to head into town to talk to Sheriff Mitchell. She wasn't entirely fond of him. He was a timid lawman, old and run down, just trying to keep the peace in a place where too many folks carried guns and grudges. But if outlaws had indeed targeted her, she had to report it. She readied Patch, the old horse stomping a bit at the dryness. Lily May grabbed a battered canteen and ironically had to fill it with leftover water. She'd boiled the day before from the well. She only hoped that water was safe enough to drink. Mounting up, she trotted toward town, a swirl of dust trailing behind. High Plain wasn't large, but it tried to appear respectable. A short main street lined with a saloon, a general store, a modest doctor's office, and the sheriff's station. Several run-down wooden buildings were huddled in clusters, overshadowed by a half-constructed church. As Lily May guided Patch down the street, eyes followed her. She was known here sometimes with respect for her medical knowledge, other times with hushed wariness at her rumored skill with a scalpel, or the fact she was a war-hardened widow who didn't abide by men's attempts at intimidation. She could feel the stares, but kept her spine straight, chin high. She tied Patch outside the sheriff's office. Before she could even reach the door, it swung open, revealing Sheriff Mitchell himself, a wiry man in his late 50s, mustache drooping over a furrowed mouth. He had watery blue eyes that always seemed full of regret. Mitchell gave a faint nod to Lily May Morning. He greeted, "Something troubling you." "Miss Carson, mornin', Sheriff," she said, stepping inside, letting her eyes adjust to the dimness. A wooden desk, battered filing cabinet, a single cell at the back. The place smelled of stale coffee and cigar smoke. "I need to report sabotage." He raised an eyebrow. Sabotage? She explained the situation, the tainted water, the suspicious footprints. "I suspect somebody wants me off my land," she concluded. He scratched his mustache, sighing. "Ms. Carson, we've got trouble in these parts. Been hearing rumors, a fella by the name of Gerald Blacktooth. Jones has been pushing small ranchers out, trying to control the local water. Folks claim he and his men have been roughing them up, burning barns or doing worse. But no one's pressed charges. Seems they're too scared." Lily May felt a chill. She'd heard the name Blacktooth whispered. He was rumored to have roamed from territory to territory, taking what he wanted and leaving behind scorched earth. "Then you know who might be behind my well problem," she said. "Are you going to do anything?" Mitchell gave a half shrug of helplessness. "I ain't got the manpower or the budget. We're just a small outpost of the law. I can't accuse him outright without proof. I can look into it. But if you're hoping for me to bring him in, that might be a tall order." She bit her lip, fighting anger. "So that's it. You can't help me. I'll see what I can do," he said lamely. "But be careful, Ms. Carson. Blacktooth's men are as mean as the day is long. Some folks suspect they've got backing from a shady higher-up, maybe some local official or wealthy rancher. No one knows for sure." Lily May turned on her heel and left frustration gnawing at her. She had faced Confederate and Union bullets on the battlefield. She wasn't about to cower before a band of outlaws. But she also remembered all too well that in war, the cunning and merciless usually prevailed when the other side hesitated. Outside the sheriff's station, she almost collided with Lizzie Harper, a petite widow in her 30s who lived a half-mile from Lily May's ranch. Lizzie was balancing a basket of eggs on one hip. A shy but friendly smile lit her face as she saw Lily May. "Ma'am." She greeted Sheriff, "Giving you trouble." Lily May forced a thin smile. "Same old story, Lizzie. Someone's been tampering with my... Well, Sheriff says it might be this Blacktooth character, but there's not much he can do." Lizzie's eyes widened with concern. "That's dreadful. I've been hearing rumors, too. Some men came by my place asking if I wanted to sell my little patch of land. Told me it wasn't safe for a lonely woman to stay out there alone. I got scared, but I told them I wasn't interested in selling." She lowered her voice. I have no place else to go. A flicker of protectiveness stirred in Lily May. She and Lizzie had formed a loose friendship bonded by widowhood and the precarious independence of living on the outskirts. If you see or hear anything suspicious, you come straight to me. Lily, May said, voice firm. We're not going to be pushed off our land. Lizzie nodded gratefully, her lips pressed together in determination. Yes, ma'am. With that, Lily, May returned to Patch, figuring she'd make a quick stop at the general store for supplies. She needed some strong cleaning agents if she was to try purifying the well. She had a medical background and some knowledge of how certain chemicals might neutralize toxins. But as she walked, she noticed a man leaning against a post near the saloon staring at her. He was lanky with sunken cheeks and a grin that held no warmth. He tipped his hat at her in a mocking gesture. Lily May felt the nape of her neck prickle again. She recognized the arrogance in that stance, the sense that the man had no fear of consequences, probably one of Blacktooth's men. She ignored him, but she knew the confrontation was only beginning. Late that night back at the ranch, Lily May tossed and turned on her simple cot. The wind moaned outside, stirring the windmill. A mild ache in her joints reminded her she wasn't young anymore. Then came the dream's flashbacks, really. She was back in that canvas field tent, the smell of antiseptic and fresh blood. Nearly overpowering lantern. Light flickered on the faces of wounded men laid out on cots. The moaning and cries rang in her ears. She moved from one soldier to the next, pinching blood vessels, suturing wounds with trembling fingers, pushing morphine when available. The memory blurred with the image of her husband Thomas being carried in chest, soaked in red. Her hands shook, tears streamed down her face, but she tried to remain calm. This was her job. She'd chosen it, yet the bullet had torn through his lung lodging near his heart. She never had a chance. She woke with a strangled cry. Sweat coated her brow, despite the chill of the desert night. For a moment she couldn't place herself. Was she still in that war? Then her mind cleared and she drew in a shaky breath. It was always the same dream. Lily May pressed a hand to her chest, remembering how Thomas used to hold her, to calm her down, the steady beat of his heart, a comfort. Now only emptiness. She sat up, resolved that no matter the risk, she would not let the same kind of senseless death visit High Plain if she could help it. A couple of days later, Lily May tried a rudimentary procedure on the well. Using her old medical notes, she carefully lowered powdered charcoal and other purifying agents into the water, trying to neutralize whatever poison had been introduced. She had to tie a bandana across her nose, so foul was the stench that rose from the well after she stirred it. A wave of nausea nearly felled her, but she pressed on. This was her lifeline. Suddenly she heard the crunch of boots behind her. She whirled around to see two men approaching, rifles slung across their shoulders. Both wore dusty coats and sneers that put Lily May on guard instantly. One was short and stocky with a face marred by a scar across his cheek, and the other was tall with a missing front tooth. "This is private property," she said evenly, though she could feel her pulse spike. The tall one spat private property. "You say word as you got a well with good water." "We're parched," he smirked, glancing pointedly at the bandana, the bucket with a blackish mixture. "Though it don't look so good right now, does it?" Lily May set her jaw. "It's been contaminated, likely by scum who think intimidation will make me leave." She let her hand hover near the revolver on her hip. She was a better shot with a rifle, but she never ventured out unarmed. The short, stocky man stepped closer, eyes narrowed. "We're just here to tell you that you'd be better off packing up. Some fellas ain't too kindly disposed to a stubborn old lady taking up the best water around here." Lily May's heart pounded. "Who do you work for, Gerald Jones?" He shrugged. Could be not." Then he jerked his head toward the horizon. "But if you're still here in a week, you'll regret it. There's more of us, see?" She steeled herself. "I survived worse than you two in the war." Her eyes glinted. "If you come back, you best be prepared to find out what a battlefield surgeon can do when threatened." The two men exchanged a glance. The taller one gave a short laugh, but it held a kernel of uncertainty. "You talk big. Let's see if you can back it up." With that, they turned and left. Lily May's hands trembled after they had gone, but her resolve hardened. She had no illusions about what these men were capable of. Murder, torture, anything to seize control. But she wasn't leaving. This ranch was all she had left of her husband's memory. The day after Lily Mae rode back to town to press the sheriff again, on the way she spotted a plume of smoke curling from a neighboring property. With dread, she nudged Patch into a gallop. Sure enough, her heart sank when she reached the property line. A small barn belonging to the Harpers, Lizzie's place, was ablaze. She could see Lizzie and a few neighbors desperately trying to douse the flames with buckets of water from a trough. But the trough was nearly empty. Lily Mae jumped down to help, grabbing a bucket. The fire roared, consuming the barn's roof in a crackle of sparks. They couldn't save it, but they managed to keep the blaze from spreading to the house. Lizzie's face was tear-streaked, her clothes covered in soot. "They came in the night," Lizzie choked out. "Set the barn on fire. They kept yelling for me to sell the land. I saw them gallop off, but I couldn't see faces." She looked to Lily Mae in desperation. "What am I going to do?" Lily Mae put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure this out, Lizzie. Come on, let's see the sheriff." Once in town, they found Sheriff Mitchell in his office, looking beleaguered. Lily Mae laid out the facts, gesturing to Lizzie's ash-stained clothes as evidence. "You see, Sheriff, it's not just me. This is the second time in as many days I've personally witnessed sabotage. They're terrorizing folks around here." Mitchell sighed. "I'll ride out. I'll see what I can do. But these outlaws, Blacktooth's gang, they slip away before I can catch them in the act. I don't have enough deputies, and the county judge won't sign warrants without evidence or sworn testimony from credible witnesses." Lizzie's lip trembled. "Then what are we supposed to do?" "Sheriff, pack up and leave everything. This was my husband's land." The sheriff looked pained. "I can't tell you what to do, but I'd be careful. These men are dangerous." Lily Mae slammed her hand on his desk. "You're worthless if you can't protect the people. Mitchell, mark my words, if you won't help us, I'll find a way to help ourselves." She stormed out, Lizzie trailing behind, tears in her eyes. That afternoon, Lily Mae visited an old acquaintance, Amos Turner. He was a quiet, broad-shouldered man, older than Lily Mae by maybe a decade, with a permanent limp from a war injury. He had served on the same side as Lily Mae's husband and had once been a respected cavalry sergeant. Now he operated a small blacksmith shed near the outskirts of High Plain, hammering horseshoes and wagon axles to earn a living. When Lily Mae arrived, the clang of metal on metal echoed against the dusty sky. Amos wiped sweat from his brow and gave her a wary look. He'd always been polite but distant. She never quite understood why. "Amos," she said, stepping around the forge. "I need help." He raised an eyebrow. "Help, you say? You're one of the most independent folks I know." "Lily," she explained about the poisoned, well, the outlaws harassing her and Lizzie. "We need protection," she concluded. "You have knowledge of firearm strategy from the war. Will you stand with us if, when it comes down to a fight?" Amos's jaw tightened. He glanced away. "I made a pledge after the war. Never again saw too much blood. Too many good men die. I'm done with that life." She grasped his arm gently. "I understand, but they've attacked us on our own land. This is the same tyranny we fought against, if you ask me." He scowled. "Gerald Blacktooth. Jones is trouble, that's for sure. And rumor has it he's got friends in higher places. If you cross him, you might end up dead. Better to die fighting for what's right than live on our knees," she said, her voice trembling with conviction. Amos sighed heavily. "You sure you want to stir this hornet's nest?" Lily Mae gave a grim nod. "We didn't stir it. They brought the fight to us." She paused, searching his eyes. "Please, Amos." He let out a long breath, hammered a horseshoe once more, then set it aside. "I'll help if push comes to shove, but I ain't about to lead an army. I don't know if I can be the man I was during the war." She managed a small smile of relief. "That's all I need. Thank you." Time was running. Word was traveling through the meager lines of gossip that Lily Mae Carson wasn't bowing to the outlaws' intimidation. And if there was one thing bullies hated, it was open defiance, fearing another nighttime ambush. Lily Mae decided to set a trap on her property. She rigged a simple perimeter alarm, old tin cans tied to ropes that would clatter if disturbed. She knew it was rudimentary, but anything to give her a moment's warning could help. She also prepared her firearms. Her father's old hunting rifle was cleaned and loaded, leaning by the door. A revolver was strapped to her waist whenever she ventured outside. She considered rigging a few other contraptions, tripwires, maybe an oil lamp alarm. Her knowledge from field engineering during the war, picking up tidbits from soldiers, came back to her. She hammered boards over some windows to prevent easy entry. Lizzie stayed in her own home for now, trying to salvage what she could from the barn's wreckage. But Lily Mae made sure the younger widow had a loaded shotgun handy. "Use it if you must," Lily Mae told her. "We can't rely on any cavalry coming to our rescue." That night, Lily Mae waited in the darkness of her living room, a single lantern flickering rifle across her lap. The house was eerily quiet except for the faint moan of the wind. Her heart thudded. She didn't relish violence. She remembered too well the carnage from her days in uniform. But if she had to kill again to protect what was hers, she would. Somewhere past midnight, a tin can clattered outside. Then another. Lily Mae's eyes snapped open. She crept to the window, parted a curtain slightly. She spotted moving shadows near the well. 2 or 3 figures hunkered down. She couldn't make out faces, but she saw the glint of moonlight on metal, possibly a canteen or a weapon. Her pulse hammered. She steadied the rifle, took aim. In that moment, she recalled 1,000 nights of triage tense, the swirl of terror and adrenaline. Her finger hovered near the trigger, but she had to be sure. She decided to step outside quietly. She unlatched the door, letting it swing slowly. The boards creaked under her weight, but she hoped the wind covered the sound. She advanced, rifle raised. The figures had their backs turned, seemingly pouring or sprinkling something into the well again. "Hands up," she shouted. They whirled. In the moonlight, Lily Mae recognized the stocky man from before. He cursed, raising a pistol. Lily Mae fired a warning shot overhead. The bullet whizzed, splintering the top of the well. One of the outlaws dove for cover behind the well's stone lip. Another whipped his revolver upward and fired. A muzzle flash lit the night. Lily Mae felt the bullet zip past her left shoulder. She ducked behind a barrel. The night exploded in gunfire cracks echoing across the silent ranch. She peeked around, lined up a shot, and squeezed the trigger. Her bullet struck the stocky man's leg, and he collapsed with a grunt, dropping his gun. The second man, wide-eyed, scrambled away, returning fire blindly. Lily Mae heard a bullet ricochet off the barrel. She advanced slowly, heart thrumming. She had no illusions. These men would kill her if they could. She braced her rifle, about to fire again. But a third figure suddenly emerged from the shadows behind her. She sensed the presence too late. A blow struck her shoulder. She fell forward, pain blooming. Her rifle clattered to the ground. "Gotcha now," hissed the new attacker, looming over her with a raised pistol. Lily Mae twisted, fumbling for her sidearm, but the man's boot pressed onto her wrist. She stifled a cry of pain. The muzzle pointed at her face. Then unexpectedly, another shot rang out. The man jerked, dropping to his knees. Lily Mae scrambled free, grabbing her revolver and rolling away. She looked up to see Amos Turner standing a few yards off. Rifle smoking, relief and surprise coursed through her. "Let's get these bastards," Amos yelled. A quick exchange of gunfire followed. The man who'd been shot by Amos slumped over. Another bullet from Lily Mae's revolver barked into the night, catching the second attacker in the arm, sending him spinning. The wounded, stocky man on the ground whimpered, pressing his leg wound. Suddenly, the second man, who was wounded, bolted into the darkness, holding his arm. Lily Mae aimed, but he vanished behind a cluster of rocks, too swift and well hidden to risk a shot in the gloom. Meanwhile, Amos disarmed the stocky man, kicked his pistol aside. The ranch fell silent except for heavy breathing, and the moans of the injured. Amos kept his rifle pointed at the stocky man while Lily Mae approached. Blood soaked the man's pants leg. Her old instincts as a battlefield medic warred with her anger. She wanted to demand answers, but she also didn't want him to bleed out before talking. She knelt, pressing her hand to his wound. "Keep pressure here," she ordered. His face twisted with pain. "Why are you poisoning my well?" "Who sent you?" she demanded. He spat. "Go to hell, I ain't talking." Lily Mae looked up at Amos, who wore a grim expression. The third attacker was clearly dead, a bullet in the chest. Lily Mae swallowed. She had taken lives before, but it never got easier. "We need to know who else is involved," she said quietly. "I ain't talking," the man repeated, though fear flickered in his eyes. Amos shifted his weight. "Let's just hand him over to the sheriff." But Lily Mae leaned forward, her voice cold. "If we do that, he might walk free once some bribed official intervenes, or we can leave him here. He'll bleed out in less than an hour." A flash of panic crossed the outlaw's face. "You wouldn't do that." "Try me, Lily," May said icily. "I've seen so many men die. I can watch one more if it means saving more innocent folks." He grit his teeth. "All right, damn it. We're with the Blacktooth Gang. Gerald Jones wants to control every water source in this region. He's paying folks off, leaning on them to sell out or get driven out." "That's all I know," Lily May nodded slowly. "What about the men you came with?" "Are there more?" he hissed in pain, pressing on the wound. "You got one of them. The other's gone, probably running back to the boss. Soon as he knows, you'll have the entire gang on your head." Lily May exchanged a glance with Amos. The implication was clear. They'd force the outlaw's hand now. Retaliation would be swift and merciless. She exhaled. "Amos helped me dress his wound." He looked at her with surprise. "We're patching him up." She nodded. "I'm not letting him die. I'm not stooping to their level." Then her voice hardened. "But we tie him up and keep him locked somewhere safe until we figure out how to handle this." Amos moved to help producing a small cloth. Lily May used some homemade disinfectant and bandages. The man groaned as she worked, but soon his bleeding was under control, and they tied his hands behind his back. A swirl of guilt and triumph churned in Lily May's stomach. She had survived the first skirmish, but the war with Blacktooth's gang was just beginning. The next morning, Lily May and Amos loaded the injured prisoner into a makeshift cart. Lily May intended to bring him to the sheriff, but she also recognized the risk. If Blacktooth or his men learned that Lily May had captured one of theirs, they'd be emboldened to strike in full force. Halfway to town, the prisoner, delirious from the pain, mumbled something that caught Lily May's attention. "We was just the decoys. The real muscle's coming. We was told to draw you out." She halted the cart. "What did you say?" He coughed. "Blacktooth's real plan, bigger than just you or your... Well, heard he's got a big shot on his side. He wanted to flush out your defenders." "See if you had backup." Lily May felt ice trickle down her spine. "So you were just bait." He gave a tortured laugh. "That's right, ma'am, and you bit." Amos swore under his breath. Lily May realized that if these men were only a small splinter of the real gang, then everything up till now was child's play. She looked over the horizon, imagining men on horseback, armed to the teeth, sweeping across her ranch. She pressed her lips together, her mind spinning with questions of how she'd defend herself. And the rest of High Plain Sheriff Mitchell might lock this prisoner away. But it wouldn't stop the unstoppable Lily May felt the old wartime tension in her shoulders. She had to come up with a plan, rally allies, and likely fight. And she knew from experience that in war, sacrifices were inevitable. Thus ended the first phase of her struggle. The question now wasn't if the big fight would come, but when. End of part. 4 days had passed since Lily May and Amos turned over the wounded outlaw to Sheriff Mitchell. During that time, Lily May had frantically tried to purge her well of poison, applying every bit of medical and chemical knowledge she possessed. She toiled for hours in the punishing sun, carefully scraping residual toxins, dumping barrels of charcoal-laden mixture. By day 3, the stench had lessened, but the water was still questionable. She dared not drink it. Instead, she relied on the small stockpile of boiled water she had set aside, and the help of a neighbor's well deeper into High Plain territory, though that too was threatened by the creeping presence of Blacktooth's men. In town, the tension was palpable. Folks carried shotguns in their wagons and the saloon was half empty. The rumor mills churned. Blacktooth Jones was furious that Lily May had the gall to fight back. He had bigger plans too. Some said he wanted to buy or drive out nearly every rancher in the county, giving him a monopoly over water and farmland. Sheriff Mitchell, for his part, kept the wounded outlaw in the jail cell, but refused to let Lily May or Amos question him further. The official reason was to keep the prisoner safe and follow legal procedure, but Lily May suspected the sheriff was worried about stirring more trouble. All he gave Lily May was a gruff assurance, "I'll forward the case to the county judge." Lily May was skeptical that it would accomplish anything in time. She, Lizzie, and Amos had a tacit understanding they were on their own. Desperate for reinforcements, Lily May roamed High Plain and neighboring homesteads looking for anyone willing to stand with them. Most ranchers wanted no part of a war with a ruthless gang. They had families to protect, children to feed. Even so, a handful of folks offered small tokens of support, extra ammunition. Some dried provisions. Lily May also visited Dr. Harold Young, the town's only official doctor, to see if he could help. Dr. Young was a weary man in his 60s with spectacles perched on the tip of his nose. His clinic was a modest building at the edge of Main Street. When Lily May entered, the smell of antiseptic and stale whiskey assaulted her. She found Dr. Young at a desk reading an outdated medical journal. He looked up and managed a tight smile. "Mrs. Carson," he greeted softly. "Still tending to the sick, I see." She gave a small nod. "Trying to keep this town from dying more like it." He sighed. "I heard about your trouble with those outlaws. Sorry to say I can't fight. My old bones can barely handle the daily routine. But I'll patch you up if you come in wounded." Lily May appreciated the offer, though it wasn't quite the support she needed. "Thank you, doctor. I just might need that." She paused. "If things get ugly, I'd advise you to be ready for more than your usual business and watch your back." He nodded gravely. "I will. You be careful out there." Back at her ranch, Lily May and Amos tried to plan some form of defense. They pored over rough sketches of the surrounding land, marking vantage points and likely approaches. If Blacktooth's gang came in force, the open terrain would favor the attackers. There was little cover except for some rocks and sparse brush. The best Lily May could do was prepare the immediate perimeter around the house and barn. She hammered boards over the windows, stacked crates for barricades, and set aside homemade explosives, a holdover from her war experiences mixing certain chemicals. Amos frowned, arms folded across his broad chest. "We're short-handed. Yumi maybe, Lizzie with a shotgun. That's no match for a band of outlaws. We need more guns." Lily May exhaled. "I've tried. Folks are too scared." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "Then we might have to consider an alternative. Maybe we can reason with Blacktooth or find a way to buy him off." Lily May's eyes blazed. "Amos, you can't be serious. Reason with a murderer? Give him money so he can keep terrorizing others." Amos pressed his lips together. "I don't like it either, but sometimes that's the lesser evil. The main thing is to keep you alive." She glared at him. "I'd rather fight. My husband died protecting people from tyranny. I won't let that sacrifice be in vain." He sighed. "Then be ready for casualties." In the midst of this tension, a new blow landed. They discovered that someone had again tampered with Lily May's attempts to cleanse the well. The ropes used to lower the charcoal had been cut, the barrel of purifying chemicals stolen. It was a brazen sabotage done right under their noses. Lily May's blood boiled. This was not a random act. Someone was actively making sure her water remained undrinkable. That very night, after an exhausting day of fortification, Lily May roused from a fitful sleep at the sound of hushed voices outside. She grabbed her revolver and peered out a crack in the boarded window. She saw a lantern glow near the barn. Amos was there, talking to a man she didn't recognize. Or? No, wait, that man was the one Lily May had seen lurking near the saloon days ago, the one who tipped his hat at her, mockingly. Heart-pounding, Lily May pressed her ear to the board, straining to hear. Their words were muffled by the wind, but she caught snatches. "Can't be helped. If she don't leave, we'll have to do it. I gave you information. That was the deal." Lily May's breath caught information. Was Amos leaking details to Blacktooth's men? She saw money change hands. Amos accepted a small pouch that clinked with coins. Lily May felt a surge of betrayal, a roiling sickness in her stomach. She retreated from the window, her mind spinning. Amos, who had served with her husband, who promised to help. Was he only feigning loyalty? She waited until the stranger was gone, then confronted Amos in the dark barn. He nearly jumped out of his skin when her lantern revealed her standing there, revolver in hand. "Lily May," he stammered. "What are you?" "I saw what you did," she said. Voice, ice cold. "You sold me out." He held up his hands. "It ain't what it looks like. I'm caught in the middle. They threatened me weeks ago, said they'd burn my smithy, kill me if I didn't give them some inside information." She gritted her teeth. "That's your excuse? You told them about my defenses?" He lowered his gaze. "Yes, but Lily, I did it to buy you time. If I fed them small tidbits, they'd hold off on attacking. I even tried to mislead them." You gotta believe me. Mislead them, she spat. They've been poisoning my well, threatening me and Lizzie burning barns. That's your idea of buying time. Amos looked ashamed. I was a coward after the war. I couldn't face another conflict. I just wanted out. Her fury flared. So you'd rather betray me? Betray Tom's memory than stand and fight, damn it, Lily May. It's not that simple, he snapped back, eyes watering. I owe money. My war injury cost me a fortune in medical bills. I can barely keep the smithy open. They said they'd pay off my debts, keep me safe if I cooperated. She brandished the revolver, trembling. Get out, Amos. You're no friend of mine. If I see you on my property again, I won't hesitate to shoot. He swallowed, stepping back, hands raised in a placating gesture. You can't defend this place alone. At least let me go, she barked, cocking the hammer. With a heavy heart, Amos limped away into the night. Lily May stood there, tears burning in her eyes. She felt the old pang of betrayal that once haunted her. In the war, when some in her unit deserted under fire, leaving her and Tom to save the wounded alone. Now she was more alone than ever. The next morning, Lily May told Lizzie about Amos's betrayal. The younger widow looked aghast. But what are we to do now? How will we fight them alone? Lily May stared at her ranch, the dust swirling in the morning sun. She remembered the war and the times she had to make impossible decisions. They needed a new plan, and she suspected it would require a great sacrifice. She checked her old trunk, rummaging through mementos. Tom's uniform letters from the front, and an old crate containing leftover explosives. They were risky to handle after so many years, but perhaps still viable. She had to be extremely careful. An idea took shape in her mind, one that made her stomach churn. What if she destroyed the well entirely? If Blacktooth wanted control of the water, sabotage it so thoroughly that it was unusable, then there would be nothing to claim. But that also meant Lily May would lose the property's main asset, her livelihood. It would doom her ranch to worthless dirt. Lizzie gasped when Lily May voiced the plan. Blow up the well. But that's your home. Your life. Lily May's gaze hardened. If I have no water, they'll have no reason to occupy my land. It'll force them into the open. They might come after me directly, and I can ambush them on my terms. Lizzie trembled. But how will you survive then? Where will you go? I don't know. Perhaps it's time I let this place go. I'd rather see it destroyed than in the hands of murderers. She placed a hand on the trunk. I'm done letting them poison everything. If I do this, we better be ready for a fight. Lizzie swallowed hard but nodded in solidarity. I'll stand with you. Over the next 2 days, Lily May and Lizzie covertly removed what valuables they could from the house. Important keepsakes, spare clothes, medical supplies. They discreetly took these items to Lizzie's property or hid them away in the rocky outcroppings near the ranch. Lily May tried not to dwell on the heartbreak of abandoning the place she and Tom had dreamed of building into a thriving homestead. She rigged a set of explosives deep in the well structure, packing them carefully around the stone lining. The plan was to cause a controlled collapse, sealing the water supply below rubble. It was a desperate measure, but Lily May was determined. She also set smaller charges near the barn in case the outlaws tried to use the structure for cover. Meanwhile, Lizzie scouted the perimeter. She spotted suspicious riders in the distance, likely Blacktooth scouts. A confrontation loomed. Lily May and Lizzie tested their weapons, ensuring everything functioned. Lily May revisited the memory of triage, steeling herself for the possibility that if they survived, she might have to treat Lizzie's wounds or her own under fire. On the eve of the plan, Lily May took a final walk around the ranch at sunset. She ran her hand over the weathered fence post where Tom had once carved their initials. She visited the modest grave marker under a lone tree where she'd placed a memorial plaque for Tom, though his body had never been returned from the battlefield. She lingered there, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Tom, she whispered, fingers tracing the plaque. I know you wanted a life here, but I won't let them profit from your dream. She closed her eyes, recalling his voice, his laughter. The old pain welled up anew. As night fell, she returned to the house. She and Lizzie readied their fuses. When they come for us, Lily May explained, we'll detonate the well. If that doesn't deter them, we retreat to the barn. That's the next fallback point. If they get too close, we blow that too. Lizzie's eyes were wide, but her jaw was set. All right, I'm with you, it was decided. At dawn, Lily Mae would do the unthinkable sacrifice, the well, the very heart of her homestead. And after that, they would face the outlaws in a final showdown. Dawn broke with a tension so thick that even the birds seemed to sing in hushed tones. Lily Mae stationed herself in the old stable loft rifle at the ready, while Lizzie took position in the house. They waited, scanning the horizon. Just after sunrise, a plume of dust appeared, heralding riders on horseback. Lily Mae peered through a crack in the wood. At least half a dozen men approached. Leading them was a figure on a black stallion, broad-shouldered and dressed in a dark duster coat. Gerald Blacktooth Jones himself. Even at this distance, Lily Mae could make out the glint of cruelty in his posture. They halted about 50 yards from the ranch house. Lily Mae clenched her jaw. This was it. She reached down, lit the fuse that trailed into the well's interior. She counted silently, giving it time to burn. Outside, Blacktooth raised a hand and his men dismounted. Lily Mae heard a booming voice carry across the yard. Lily Mae Carson, you will vacate these premises at once, or we'll take them by force. Lily Mae's heart hammered. She closed her eyes for a moment, bracing for the thunder. Then came the boom. The ground shook. A column of smoke and debris shot into the air as the explosives in the well detonated. Stones and dirt flew rattling the stable roof. Lily Mae's ears rang. She peeked out, seeing the outlaws crouched, startled. The well was now a gaping hole caved in dust, swirling like a storm cloud. Blacktooth shouted curses, regaining his composure. What in tarnation? She blew up her own. Well, his men stared, unnerved. Lily Mae took that moment of confusion to line up her rifle and fire. Her shot clipped one outlaw's shoulder, sending him spinning backward. Lizzie, from a window in the house, fired her shotgun, the blast echoing. The outlaws scrambled for cover, returning fire. Bullets whined past the stable walls. Wood splintered. Lily Mae loaded another round, ignoring the tremor in her hands. She fired again, catching a second outlaw. He dropped. She saw Blacktooth bark orders, face twisted in fury. They advanced, using the barn and other scattered debris for cover. A few tried to flank the stable. Lily Mae repositioned, peering through another gap. She squeezed the trigger, missed a bullet, zinged past her ear. She ducked, heart pounding. Lizzie's shotgun roared again. Lily Mae heard a scream from an outlaw. But soon the outlaws returned, a barrage of gunfire at the house, punching holes in walls. Lily Mae saw Lizzie dive for safety, shards of glass raining down. Within minutes, the yard was a chaos of swirling dust and muzzle flashes. Lily Mae's vantage gave her a slight advantage, but she knew they were outnumbered. She heard Blacktooth's men whooping as they advanced under covering fire. A pair of outlaws sprinted toward the barn. Lily Mae aimed, fired, and downed one. The other ducked behind a water trough, useless now that the well was gone. Lily Mae cursed, realizing they'd soon overrun the stable. She decided it was time to implement the fallback plan. She scrambled down the ladder of the loft, holding the lit fuse for the barn charges. As bullets thudded into the stable walls, Lily Mae sprinted out the back door, racing toward the house. She sparked the fuse leading to the barn's supports. She heard outlaws shouting from inside the barn. "She's running, get her!" The house's back door flew open and Lizzie waved frantically. Lily Mae dove inside, slamming the door shut. Together, they crouched behind an overturned table, hearts pounding. Several seconds later, another thunderous crump shook the air. A fiery bloom erupted as the barn's rafters collapsed, sending planks and debris skyward. Any outlaws inside would be crushed or forced to flee. Lizzie was breathing in ragged gasps, her face pale. "They're still out there." She managed Blacktooth's men. "There could be more." Lily Mae nodded, sweat trickling down her temple. "We've only slowed them down." Sure enough, gunfire renewed outside. Lily Mae took stock. They were pinned inside the house, low on ammo. She had a revolver with a few spare cartridges. Lizzie had the shotgun, and that was about it. If Blacktooth decided to torch the place, they were finished from a side window. Lily Mae saw Blacktooth step into view. He was furious, shouting, "Carson, you think blowing up your well changes anything? You're a damned fool. We'll kill you, then claim this land anyway." His voice dripped with hatred. "You want war? Fine. I've fought nastier battles than you can imagine. Lily May inhaled her mind, flashing back to the field hospitals. She'd faced unspeakable carnage, but never entirely alone. Now Tom was gone. Amos had betrayed her, and only Lizzie stood at her side. She shook off the despair. She had no choice but to press on. She fired blindly out the window, forcing Blacktooth to duck. Another bullet smacked the window frame, showering her with splinters. Lizzie fired from another window but was nearly shot herself. They were outgunned. Lily May prayed for a miracle, but none came. She clenched her jaw. I have one more trick, Lily May told Lizzie. But it's a long shot. What is it? Lizzie asked, eyes wide. Follow me. Lily May led the way to the back of the house, opening a trap door to a small root cellar. They crept down, listening to gunshots overhead. The house might not hold much longer, but Lily May had stored a couple of extra canisters of black powder there. The plan formed in her mind: rig a final explosion, turning the house itself into a death trap for the outlaws. But that would mean they had to get out before lighting the fuse, or they'd be blown to bits along with it. Before Lily May could explain fully, a bullet ripped through the door upstairs. The outlaws were breaching the house. She and Lizzie clutched their weapons, hearts hammering. The boards creaked as heavy footsteps spread through the rooms above. Then came the sound of new gunshots, rapid from outside. Male voices yelled in surprise. Lily May tensed, exchanging a confused glance with Lizzie. Was it more of Blacktooth's men? Or was someone helping them? Lizzie grabbed the ladder, peeking through a crack in the trapdoor. I see someone out there. He's shooting at Blacktooth's men. A swirl of hope and disbelief pulsed in Lily May's chest. She quietly pushed the cellar door open, rifle in hand. The outlaws who had entered the house were now distracted, looking out the windows. Lily May took advantage, firing a shot that struck one of them in the back. He dropped with a gasp. Lizzie took aim at the second intruder, pulling the trigger. The shotgun blast tore into his side. He collapsed. They hurried to the front of the house, carefully staying low. Through the bullet-shattered remains of a window, Lily May spotted a lone rider dismounting. She blinked. It was a man she recognized, John Scraps Walters, a fellow medic from the war, who Lily May had believed killed in a Confederate raid. He was older, with a ragged scar crossing his face, but it was undoubtedly him. He fired a lever-action rifle with surprising speed and accuracy, pinning down two outlaws near the smoldering barn. One of them tried to return fire, but John rolled behind a water trough, reloading in a flash. Another crack of his rifle, and the outlaw pitched forward. Blacktooth cursed, ducking behind a half-collapsed shed. The few remaining outlaws seemed rattled by the newcomer's sudden arrival. Lily May flung the door open and shouted to John Scraps, "Is that you?" He glanced back, a wild grin crossing his weathered features. "Glad to see you're still alive." "Carson!" Lily May's heart soared. She dashed outside, taking cover beside him. Lizzie followed, adrenaline surging. Together they launched a renewed assault on Blacktooth's men. Gunshots rang out, the acrid smell of gunpowder thick one by one. The outlaws either fell or slunk away, mounting their horses to flee. The few who remained formed a rearguard around Blacktooth, laying down covering fire as they retreated. In minutes, the yard was strewn with bodies. At least half of the gang had been neutralized. Breathing hard, Lily May turned to John Walters, hardly believing her eyes. "I saw your name on the casualty list in the war. I thought you died in that raid." He wiped sweat from his brow, face grimy with smoke. "I nearly did. Some locals found me half dead, patched me up. I left the war after that. Couldn't stomach more. Wandered around for years doing odd jobs. Heard rumors you were in High Plain, doing your best to help folks." Lily May shook her head. "You came just in time. Blacktooth had us pinned." He nodded. "I heard about this. Blacktooth trouble from a traveler on the road. Figured I owed you a debt after all. You saved my life back in the war. Thought I could repay the favor." Gratitude welled in Lily May's chest. "I'm just thankful you got here when you did." As they surveyed the carnage, Lily May spotted a figure crouched in the shadows, behind the debris of the barn, holding a revolver. She raised her rifle, about to fire. Then the figure stood, dropping, the weapon hands raised. The man stepped into the light. Lily May felt her heart freeze. She recognized him from the war. Private Daniel Flynn, a soldier she'd once saved on an operating table after he suffered a gut wound. Her mind whirled. She remembered spending hours stitching him up, ensuring he lived to fight another day. Now here he was, apparently one of Blacktooth's men. He gazed at her with haunted eyes. "Doc, so it is you." He coughed, clutching a bleeding arm. "Never thought I'd see you again." Her stomach twisted. "You? You're part of this gang." He gave a bitter half-smile. "I've been a drifter since the war. No prospects, no family. Blacktooth took me in. He had plans, offered me decent pay. I didn't know it was you we'd be up against. I swear." Lily May's hands shook as she lowered the rifle. She could hardly comprehend that one of the men she had sacrificed her time and skill to save was now trying to terrorize her. The war was over, but in many ways it had never ended for men like Flynn. John Walters kept his rifle trained on Flynn, but Lily May signaled him to wait. Flynn sank to his knees, cradling his wounded arm. "I don't want to die, I'm sorry." The fury and betrayal Lily May felt was a torrent inside her. She wanted to scream at him, demand why he chose this path, but she also recalled her oath as a medic to preserve life whenever possible. She sighed, kneeling beside him. "Let me see that wound." He was hesitant, but then allowed her to examine it. It was a through-and-through bullet graze, not fatal. She applied pressure. "Where's Blacktooth?" He fled. Flynn rasped, "He'll be back, though. He doesn't give up." Lizzie stepped over, her face set. "We should finish him off," she muttered, pointing to Flynn. "He tried to kill us." Lily May hesitated. This was a man she'd once saved on a battlefield. Part of her wanted to show mercy, another part burned with anger. She took a deep breath. "I won't kill him in cold blood." Then to Flynn, "If you want to live, you'll tell us everything about Blacktooth's next move." Flynn grimaced. "He's regrouping. He'll come back with more men. He's got bigger fish backing him. Someone in the state legislature, maybe some big rancher who wants to buy up the land for a railroad route." A railroad route. Lily May felt the final puzzle piece click into place. It wasn't just about water. It was about controlling land for a future rail expansion. Blacktooth was a hired enforcer, ensuring cheap sales or forced evictions. She stared at the wreckage of her well, the barn, the dead men, and the war raged on. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the bodies scattered in the yard. Lily May, and John Walters dragged them aside, grim-faced. They found a few who were still alive, moaning in pain. Lily May, though she wanted to wash her hands of all this, treated them enough to stabilize them. Let the law handle the rest, if the law would even bother. Flynn was among the wounded, and Lily May bound his arm. She wasn't sure what to do with him. Turn him over to Mitchell, let him slip away. In the end, she decided it was best to keep him under guard until the sheriff arrived. Maybe his testimony would help put Blacktooth behind bars, though that seemed unlikely in this corrupt territory. John Walters assisted calmly, his quiet presence a comfort to Lily May. With the immediate threat ended, Lily May gazed sorrowfully at what remained of her ranch, a destroyed well, a collapsed barn, bullet-riddled walls. It was scarcely habitable anymore. But she was alive. Lizzie was alive. As they prepared to ride into town, Lily May thought of the bitter cost. She'd sacrificed her well. Her livelihood, she'd lost illusions about old friends like Amos. She'd been forced to kill again, reviving the nightmares of the battlefield. Yet in that ruin, she felt a strange sense of release. The land was gone, but so was the stranglehold of fear. Perhaps now she was free to leave this place that held so many memories and so much pain. "John," she asked quietly, "are you traveling on?" He shrugged. "I've no home base, but if you need a friend, I'd stay a while." She gave him a small, grateful nod. "I'd like that." They buried the dead not out of respect for the outlaws, but to prevent disease and vultures from swarming. Sheriff Mitchell eventually showed up with a few deputies, wide-eyed at the carnage. He detained the surviving outlaws, including Flynn, though Lily May didn't have high hopes for a harsh sentence. Bribes went a long way in this part of the West. Blacktooth, Mitchell asked, scanning the horizon. "Where is he gone?" Lily May said flatly. "He'll be back." The sheriff paled. "You'd best stay vigilant." Lily May just shook her head, gaze drifting to the battered ranch house. "I think I've had enough of this place." She turned to Lizzie, voice softening. I'm sorry your barn was burned because of all this. Lizzie put a reassuring hand on her arm. You saved my life. We'll rebuild, or maybe move on together. We'll figure something out. In the distance, thunderheads rumbled, a rare sign of possible rain in the parched land. Lily May felt a weary sense of completion. She had set out to protect her well, but ended up destroying it to protect herself and the town. In that sacrifice, she found a strange redemption for all the lives she couldn't save in the war. For once, she had chosen a path that might spare innocent folks from a future under Blacktooth's tyranny. Even so, Lily May knew that the final confrontation with Blacktooth wasn't over. War had a way of leaving loose ends. If he did come back, she'd be ready, if not with a homestead fortress, then with a new sense of purpose and the allies who still stood by her side. End of Part 2. Lily Mae Carson, Lizzie Harper, and John Walters rode into High Plain with little fanfare, though the townsfolk knew something big had happened. Rumors of a firefight at the Carson Ranch spread quickly. Lizzie's clothes were still blackened with soot, and Lily Mae's left arm bore a bullet graze. Hastily bandaged John's presence drew curious looks. A stranger who had suddenly sided with Lily. May Sheriff Mitchell had sent a deputy ahead who confirmed the death toll and carried word of Blacktooth's escape. The local undertaker, a wiry man named Mortimer Reed, approached Lily Mae tentatively outside the sheriff's office. I hear there was quite a shootout on your property, Miss Carson. Many bodies to bury. She nodded grimly. Yes, John, and I put them in a shallow grave for now. They were outlaws, but I don't want them rotting in the open. Mortimer doffed his hat. I'll see to it properly. Any sign of Gerald Jones? Lily Mae shook her head. None. He'll be back, though. Mortimer's lips tightened. Be careful. There's talk he's recruiting more men. The town felt on edge, as if every citizen expected a band of raiders to thunder down Main Street at any moment. Lily Mae was exhausted, but she refused to rest until she had some semblance of a plan. She, Lizzie, and John sat down at the local saloon over a quiet meal. The place was nearly empty, the bartender polishing glasses with shaky hands. Over plates of beans and stale bread, they discussed their next move. Lizzie confided that her savings were small. She'd have trouble rebuilding her barn. Lily Mae admitted she'd used up most of her resources on explosives and had no functioning well anymore. John revealed he had traveled from territory to territory, never staying long, living off the occasional bounty hunting gig. None of them had a stable future. John's voice dropped to a hush. We could skip town, try our luck elsewhere. Lizzie frowned. But what if Blacktooth follows us or just terrorizes folks here? High Plain doesn't deserve that. Lily Mae leaned forward, eyes tired but determined. I can't just walk away. There are innocent people here like we were once. And Blacktooth will keep hurting them, if not for the land, then for the railroad. That's what Flynn said. He has bigger plans. John sighed. You want to take the fight to him? She pursed her lips. I don't see another way. Sheriff Mitchell is near useless and the county judge might be in on it. I say we figure out where Blacktooth is holed up and we finish this before he can strike again. Lizzie swallowed hard, fear in her eyes. That sounds dangerous. It is, Lily Mae agreed. But it might be the only chance to stop him for good. They needed information. Lily Mae reasoned that the best source was the prisoner still in the sheriff's cell, Daniel Flynn. Maybe if she pushed him, she could glean Blacktooth's location. So she left the saloon, heading to the jailhouse with John and Lizzie in tow. Sheriff Mitchell was reluctant, but Lily Mae insisted. If you don't let me speak to Flynn, I'll suspect you're protecting Blacktooth, she said pointedly. He scowled but opened the cell door. Flynn lay on a cot, his arm bandaged. He sat up warily when Lily Mae approached. You again, he said. She folded her arms. I want to know where Blacktooth's hideout is. He shook his head. You can't be serious. If I tell you, he'll kill me. If I don't, you might kill me. John Walters loomed behind Lily Mae. Perhaps you should weigh which fate is more certain. He let his hand hover near his revolver. Flynn paled. Look, I served under you, Doc, back in the war. I know you're not a cold-blooded killer. If I talk, can you guarantee my safety? Lily Mae considered. I can't guarantee anything. But if you cooperate, we'll do what we can to protect you. Maybe get you out of High Plain. Flynn glanced around, fear in his eyes. Finally, he relented. All right, Blacktooth's main camp is about 10 miles west near the old canyon pass. He calls it the Wolf's Den. It's an abandoned mining complex hidden in the Rocky Hills. Lily May's stomach tightened. If that was true, it'd be a fortress-like vantage point, hard to assault. She pressed on. How many men does he have left? Flynn shrugged. He lost a bunch at your ranch, but he can recruit drifters fast. Maybe a dozen or so now, but it'll grow if he's given time. And he's got supplies, weapons. I heard rumors of a Gatling gun stolen from an army shipment. Could be at the den, or maybe he's planning to acquire one soon, I'm not sure. A Gatling gun. Lily May's mind flashed to the war she'd seen what that monstrous machine could do. It mowed down whole lines of soldiers. If Blacktooth got hold of one, he could wipe out High Plain in minutes. She nodded curtly. Thanks, I suggest you pray. Your information is accurate outside. Lizzie looked stricken at the mention of a Gatling gun. We can't fight that. Can we? Lily May's face was grim. Not in a stand-up fight. We'd have to strike by surprise, sabotage it if possible. She paused, scanning the horizon. We'll need more help. A small group can slip in quietly, but we'll need an extra edge to keep them pinned down or cause a distraction. John offered. I know a few old contacts who might be willing to stand against outlaws, especially if there's a reward I could ride out and see if I can round up a posse. Lily May frowned. That might draw attention. We have to act fast before Blacktooth has time to gather an even bigger force. Lizzie raised a shaky hand. What about the folks in High Plain? Some of them must see that if we don't deal with Blacktooth now, he'll come for them later. Lily May nodded slowly. We can try to rally them, but fear might keep them from committing. If we explain the threat of that Gatling gun, she let the thought trail off, so they split up tasks. Lily May and Lizzie would speak with a few local ranchers and business owners, telling them the time for half measures was over. John would ride to a neighboring settlement to see if any hired guns or vigilantes might come for the promise of a bounty. They agreed to meet back at dawn the following day near the Carson Ranch ruins, then head west to the Wolf's Den. Lily May soon found that convincing the townsfolk was an uphill battle. Most were reluctant. Too dangerous, they said. We have families, we can't fight outlaws with professional killers. Even the saloon keeper refused. Sheriff Mitchell was sympathetic but said he couldn't deputize people without approval from the county seat. At first, Lily May despaired, but then an elderly ranch hand who went by Old Gus stepped forward. I've seen my share of fights, he said, tapping his wooden cane. Damned if I'll let a scoundrel like Blacktooth run us off our land. Count me in a small spark. Then another, the blacksmith's apprentice, a wiry young man named Charlie, volunteered. I know how to shoot. Ain't never done it in anger, but I'm sick of them bullies. A total of 5 men and 2 women agreed. It was hardly an army, but it was something Lily May was grateful, though she warned them all. This is no small matter. Some of us might not come back. If you have any doubt, walk away now. None did. Fear flickered in their eyes, but they stood firm. A quiet resolve fell over the group. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily May and Lizzie returned to Lily May's wrecked ranch, leading the volunteers, 8 in total, including themselves. John was already there, along with 2 rough-looking men in battered hats who dismounted from their horses. John introduced them as Carter and McGill, bounty hunters he'd worked with in the past. They're not saints, but they hate outlaws who muscle in on honest folk. John explained, and they like the idea of a reward if there's any bounty on Blacktooth's head. Carter spat a wad of tobacco. We heard about Jones, mean son of a gun, but we can handle ourselves. Lily May eyed them carefully, deciding she had no choice but to trust John's judgment. Welcome, she said curtly. Let's lay out the plan. They gathered in the twilight, a motley crew of ranchers, Smith's bounty hunters, and a Civil War field surgeon turned widow. Lily May used a stick to draw in the dust outlining the Wolf's Den, as best as Flynn had described it. An old mining site in a canyon with 1 main entrance and a few vantage points. High cliffs all around. If Blacktooth had watchers posted, a frontal assault would be suicide, so we need stealth. Lily May said, a small group goes in, quietly disables the guard, maybe the Gatling gun, if it's there, while the rest waits at vantage points to pick off outlaws if they flee. John nodded. I'll lead the infiltration. Carter and McGill know how to move quietly. Lily May, you and Lizzie position folks on the ridges. Once we give the signal, or if shots ring out open fire, we'll trap them in the canyon. Lizzie swallowed. And what if they have more men than we think? We improvise, Lily May said grimly. The group murmured agreement, tired but resolute. They set up a makeshift camp. Tomorrow they would head west before dawn. Chapter 7, Approaching the Wolf's Den. The next morning they rose in the half-light guided by a half-moon sinking behind the mountains. They rode in relative silence, nerves stretched taut. The landscape changed from open plains to rocky foothills, and eventually the canyon came into view, a winding pass with steep walls. Old mine shafts carved into the rock and ramshackle wooden structures. John halted the group a safe distance away. We continue on foot from here, he whispered. Lily May, you and your team get to the high ground. Wait until we're in position. She nodded. Lizzie. Old Gus Charlie and one other rancher named Ruth quietly ascended a ridge that overlooked the mine entrance. Meanwhile, John Carter and McGill circled wide, aiming to slip inside from behind. From her vantage point, Lily May scanned the canyon floor through binoculars. She spotted a couple of sentries loitering by a weathered old shack. A horse corral was off to the side, and a partially collapsed mine shaft yawned like a dark maw. No sign of a Gatling gun, but she could see crates stacked near a cave entrance, possibly containing weapons or dynamite. She exhaled, checking her rifle. Her old war training kicked in. Calm your breath. Steady your aim. She tried to push down the swirl of anxiety. Too many unknowns. If John's infiltration failed, they'd be pinned by outlaws with nowhere to run. Down in the canyon, John Carter and McGill crept through a narrow side ravine. They moved carefully, using boulders for cover. Now and then they paused, hearts pounding, when a guard glanced in their direction. But luck was on their side. The outlaws seemed relaxed, not expecting an attack so soon after the fiasco at Lily May's ranch. The infiltration team slipped behind a half-collapsed fence. Approaching the crates, Carter pried one open with a silent crowbar. Inside, rifles, ammunition, and indeed parts of a Gatling gun. John felt a chill. If Blacktooth assembled that gun, no one in High Plain would stand a chance. He motioned for Carter to sabotage it. Carter quietly removed key components, pocketing springs and pins. The gun would be useless without them. McGill tapped John's shoulder and pointed deeper into the mine. Low voices echoed from within. Possibly Blacktooth and the rest of his crew. John signaled caution. They advanced, guns at the ready. High above, Lily May watched tensely. Suddenly, she saw movement on the far side of the canyon. Two outlaws emerged from behind a boulder, heading toward the crates. She realized with dread they were about to stumble onto John and the others. Positions, she hissed to her team. The outlaws reached the crates, noticed tampering. Hey, something's off here, one said, kneeling to inspect. Then John sprang up, revolver raised. A shout rang out, followed by a gunshot. The bullet caught the outlaw in the chest, but the second outlaw bellowed in alarm. Intruders! Chaos erupted. More outlaws spilled from the mine tunnel. Lily May aimed her rifle from the ridge and fired, dropping one. Lizzie followed suit, her bullet grazing another. Up the canyon walls, old Gus and Ruth fired down with rattling shots. The outlaws scrambled for cover, returning fire blindly. John Carter and McGill dashed behind crates, exchanging gunfire at close quarters. Wood splintered, sparks flying as bullets ricocheted off rocks. A tall, scar-faced outlaw recognized Carter and roared, "Bounty hunters!" "Kill 'em!" Within moments, the canyon was ablaze with muzzle flashes and shouts. Lily May steadied her rifle shot again, took down a man who was reloading. She felt a surge of grim purpose. Stop these men here, or High Plain burns. Suddenly, a figure burst from the mine entrance. Gerald Blacktooth Jones himself, brandishing a rifle in one hand, a revolver in the other. He unleashed a torrent of bullets at John's position. Carter reeled back, clipped in the arm. John fired in return, but Blacktooth ducked behind a boulder, moving with surprising agility. Carson Blacktooth, bellowed voice echoing in the canyon. "You got some nerve coming to my doorstep." Lily May's lips curled in distaste. She took aim at Blacktooth from above, but he shifted constantly, using the terrain expertly. Bullets whizzed overhead. Lily May's companions fired in sporadic bursts. The outlaws, though surprised, still had a defensive advantage within the canyon walls. Lizzie crawled to Lily May's side. "We have to flush him out. If he stays pinned down there, he might kill John and the others." Lily May nodded. Her eyes flicked to a small wooden shack near the mine entrance, a storage area perhaps containing explosives. If she could hit it, maybe it would blow. But that was a risky gamble. They might get caught in the blast themselves. "Cover me," she told Lizzie. She switched to her revolver, carefully descending a narrow goat path down the canyon slope. Bullets chipped the rocks. She took cover behind a boulder near the canyon floor. Gunpowder smoke stung her eyes. Her heart thundered. John and McGill huddled behind crates pinned by a trio of outlaws. Carter was on the ground gripping his bleeding arm. Another outlaw attempted to flank them. Lily May fired, catching him in the leg. He howled, toppling over. She advanced step by step, reloading carefully. "Blacktooth," she shouted, "face me." His laughter echoed. "Be careful what you wish for, Doc. I ain't going back to no jail." Amid the swirling dust and acrid stench of gunpowder, Lily May spotted Blacktooth crouched behind an overturned ore cart. She circled around using a cluster of old timbers for cover. A nearby outlaw spotted her, but John shot him in the back before he could aim. With that path clear, Lily May closed the distance. Blacktooth rose, eyes full of hate. He recognized her instantly. "You cost me men money and a precious Gatling gun. I'm going to kill you slow for that." She leveled her revolver. "Give it your best shot." He fired first. Lily May flung herself sideways, diving behind the timbers. The bullet whined, slamming into the canyon wall. She popped up, squeezed the trigger. Her shot grazed his shoulder. He grunted, staggering, but refused to fall. He returned fire, forcing her to duck again. Their duel played out in tense bursts. Meanwhile, the rest of the canyon echoed with scattered gunfire as the volunteers picked off the remaining outlaws. Lily May heard a pained cry from above. Old Gus had been hit but kept firing. She hoped they'd hold out. Suddenly, her revolver clicked empty. She ducked as Blacktooth advanced, a malicious grin splitting his face. He snapped a fresh bullet into his rifle chamber. Time's up, thinking fast. Lily May grabbed her old surgeon's scalpel from a pouch at her belt. It was a relic she often carried as a reminder of her past. He rounded the timber, raising his rifle. She lunged, slashing at his wrist. He howled, dropping the rifle. Blood spattered the dusty ground. She seized the moment, ramming her shoulder into his chest, trying to knock him off balance. He was bigger, stronger. He grabbed her arm, twisting painfully. She nearly lost the scalpel. With savage force, he punched her in the ribs. She gasped, pain lancing her side. They grappled, swirling dust around them. She recalled the war hand-to-hand fights in surgical tents when enemy raiders attacked the wounded. Summoning her last reserves of strength, Lily May drove her knee into Blacktooth's gut. He doubled over. She tried to slash at him again, but he caught her wrist, forcing the scalpel away. "You're tough," he growled, spitting blood, "but not tough enough." He swung a wild punch that caught her jaw. Lights exploded behind her eyes. She stumbled. He reached for the rifle on the ground, just as Blacktooth's hand closed on the rifle. A gunshot rang out. Blam! Blacktooth jerked violently, dropping face first onto the dirt. Lily May staggered back, blinking in confusion. She saw a figure behind Blacktooth, lowering a smoking revolver. It was Amos Turner. He stood there, chest-heaving, eyes haunted. Lily May nearly collapsed from shock and exhaustion. "Amos." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand by and watch you fight alone." "Not again. Not after all Tom did for me in the war." She caught her breath, noticing that Blacktooth lay still, a bullet hole in his back. "But you betrayed me." She managed, his face twisted in anguish. "I know I was a coward. I let fear and debt drive me to do terrible things. But I'm done with that. I want to make it right." He glanced at Blacktooth's lifeless body. "Seems I came in time, Lily." May slumped to her knees, heartbreak and relief flooding her. The thunder of gunfire around them faded. Most of the outlaws were either dead or fled. Lizzie rushed up, tears in her eyes. John Walters came limping over, a bruise forming on his temple. Carter and McGill approached, battered but alive. The wolf's den echoed with the moans of wounded men. Lily May, swallowing her pain, switched to her role as a surgeon. She worked with John to bind wounds on her allies. Lizzie fetched water from a canteen. Amos stood awkwardly, uncertain of his welcome. At last, Lily May approached him, wiping blood from her lip. "Thank you for saving me," she said softly. I still can't forgive all that you did, but I appreciate that you came back. He nodded, eyes downcast. I'll do whatever I can to earn back your trust. If that's possible, I don't know if it is. She admitted, voice heavy, but Tom believed in second chances. Maybe with time I can too. She looked at Blacktooth's body. At least it's over. Amos shook his head. He was just one piece of a bigger puzzle if there really is a railroad interest. But at least the main threat to High Plain is gone. Lily May exhaled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. She had faced countless horrors in her life, but this felt like a final confrontation with her own demons as well. She had protected the town, albeit at great cost. Now perhaps she could find some peace. In the days that followed, the Wolf's Den was stripped of the Outlaws' supplies. The local ranchers took what they needed, distributed weapons to those who would keep the peace. Sheriff Mitchell, seeing the tide of public sentiment, finally made a show of riding in, with a small posse officially putting an end to Blacktooth's operation. The half-assembled Gatling gun was dismantled, ensuring it would never again threaten High Plain. Lily May, battered and sore, spent time at Lizzie's small home recuperating. She treated the wounded volunteers, including old Gus, who'd suffered a bullet to the shoulder. Her skill saved his arm. People whispered with new respect about Doc Lily, the widow who had faced down an outlaw gang. They saw less of the traumatized surgeon and more of the determined fighter who risked her life for their safety. John Walters lingered in High Plain for a while, lending a hand where needed. Eventually he mentioned moving on, drawn by the endless horizons of the frontier. Lily May understood some souls could never settle again after the war. Amos kept his distance, quietly rebuilding his smithy, occasionally offering free repairs to those who fought. Lily May sensed his regret was genuine. She didn't know if they'd ever be friends, but she allowed him to live without condemnation. It was her small gesture of forgiveness. The day Lily May finally decided to leave her ruined ranch for good, she walked across the blackened remains of the barn, the collapsed well, and the bullet-ridden house. She picked up a handful of dust, letting it slip through her fingers. She remembered Tom's smile, the letters they wrote each other during the war, the dream they'd had of a peaceful life. She had lost the ranch, but she'd kept her honor and saved others from being forced off their lands. Maybe it was a fitting tribute to Tom's memory. Perhaps her real home was in the hearts of the people she saved, or in the knowledge that she had done what was right, no matter the cost. Lizzie approached silent. Then she put an arm around Lily May's shoulders. "You all right?" she asked softly. Lily May managed a small smile. "I think so. Where will you go from here?" Lizzie looked at her battered home. "I might stay, rebuild. The land's still good enough, and if enough of us stand together, no one can push us out again." She paused, "But if you want me to come with you?" Lily May squeezed her hand. "Thank you, Lizzie, but I have some wandering to do. Maybe I'll find a new place somewhere. I can use my skills without the weight of the past." She turned her gaze to the horizon. "I've spent too long running from my memories. Maybe it's time I faced them and built something new. Who knows? Maybe I'll come back someday." They hugged, tears in their eyes, a warmth of genuine friendship grown from the fires of adversity. Then Lily May climbed onto Patch. Her loyal horse had survived it all and trotted away from the homestead. She carried a modest satchel of personal belongings and a heart heavier with sorrow, yet lighter with resolution. As she rode off, the sun broke free from behind, a cloud bathing the scorched land in a golden glow. The road stretched before her, uncertain but free. In her mind, Lily May Carson felt Tom's presence at her side, guiding her forward. She was no longer just a widow or a war surgeon or a victim of outlaws. She was something more, a survivor, a protector, and a woman who had found the courage to stand tall, no matter the odds.